So over here at Beyond the Streets, big New York City exhibit of graffiti art. It's over on Kent Street. Doing this for my California friends, my Texas friends, all those friends who won't be able to come here. Thought I'd vlog this out for you. There'll be photos, video. Hopefully you enjoy. Starts off with this wall showing, some of the old school graffiti kids, really young. This video wall showing off a bunch of old graffiti films. Filmed during back in the days. Gotta love all these old TVs. It's pretty awesome. One of the first things you see when you come in is this big wall by Tat's crew. It's actually by Nicer Bio, RG133. That's Tat's crew. They're an old school crew from New York City. They've been doing stuff since at least the 80s. Still going around today though. And if you walk around Williamsburg, Lower East Side, Upper East Side, all over Manhattan, they actually do, murals, legal and illegal for everyone. They're a big time deal. And then it's a whole big history to start off, really showing, New York history, early people, and then little Kilroy was here section. Really just showing the early starts with people like Snake and Cornbread. Really giving you a nice perspective in history. The gallery is composed in a very interesting way. So knowing an actual order, there's not an actual order of anything to go in. So I'm just following a path. One of the next things we approach is at number 11 is Lady Pink, who I've had the pleasure of meeting a couple of times, more than a couple of times. I'd say maybe 35 times over the last 10 years, probably more. Over at Wellington Park, at different gallery shows, at her own solo show. She's an absolutely fabulous woman. Been doing this since the 80s, still going hard, still going strong. Gets better all the time. Her work started as simple graffiti work and evolved into this amazing canvas work, and she's actually one of my favorites in the world, and you should be one of her favorites too. I mean, she should be one of your favorites. Yeah. What? Words are hard, okay? Over at 13 and 14, we have Crash and Daze, who started off as solo artists, then became a team, then became solo artists again. Both been doing it since the 80s and still going hard today. And when I say hard, I mean while they're doing this canvas work, if you walk around Brooklyn, you walk around Queens, you walk around Manhattan, you will see them doing bombs. I've seen it myself on a drunk night, especially Crash. Crash will get wasted and just bomb the city like a madman, like it's still 1981. He don't give a damn. That's what I love about him. Open up into a big section after Crash and Jays, and we got a bunch of photographs from subway art photography legend Henry Chalfant, a bunch of canvases by Futura, including sculptures by Futura. I know! Here's some pieces by Ramillies, who sadly passed away in 2010, and a large piece by Le Criones, one of the forerunners, one of the kings for what he did, not just in art, but just for the whole scene. One of the best there is. Still going hard. It's beautiful. Chalfant is still going hard too, actually, but he does mostly jazz documentaries now and is a great husband to his wife. So, yeah. Continuing on in the exhibit, we're still back in the 80s with most of this stuff. This is Charlie Ahern, which is right above a nice display piece on St. Smith. I've seen this piece at a couple of shows, maybe 15 shows over the couple of years. This is actually kept in Charlie's own personal collection, and I'm pretty sure he comes in and installs it himself and then uninstalls it. It's a great piece. He's He's a legend, pure legend. Moving down, got more than just the prints, his print work on top of his, awesome sculptures. So before it moves on to more modern stuff and continuing history, takes a break to hang out with the Beastie Boys, with showing off a bunch of instruments, history, early photos, samples, Say Adams developing the logo. Eric Hayes' original, well, this is enlarged, but showing off Eric Hayes' enlarged handwriting for the album. There's actually some more samples. Bunch of merch for the years. All the flyers. After the Beastie Boys, we come into a room that focuses on the photographers, some of the major photographers. While we had Henry Chalfant earlier, we went to Nat Weber. Chris Pape was not a photographer. Chris Pape actually is one of the most famous and important historical photographers and graffiti artist there was, because his piece is Freedom, which is inside the Freedom Tunnel, which I have luckily been able to go to back in the past a couple of times, and I will go through my archives, and there should be a photograph of some of Chris Pape's mole people images from the Freedom Tunnel to show you off that right underneath, to show that off to you. And next to the Chris Pape, we move forward, and my cousin, Arthur Cooper, not really my cousin, because no Coopers are usually related to each other, just like I'm not actually related to Abe Lincoln Jr., but us Coopers, we stick together. So these are a lot of the pieces you'll actually see in Subway art. Some of these in the reprinted version are almost at this size, but not at this enormous, real amazing Gleesy price size, which are pretty amazing. Been up into a section of stuff that I'm not completely familiar with. It's just the after school. So I'm going to be learning myself a lot here, because this is a interplaceable section where the history of graffiti and the start, was there, and then there was a middle section of the 90s and the early 2000s, and I didn't really get into anything until 2006. I'm not even sure if this exhibit goes as far as 2006. There are some people that I will know from this era, Barry McGee, Todd James, and Espo, but there will be other things from here that I'm feeling like I will not be as familiar with, or maybe I'm incorrect and I will know much of it. But either way, here it is. It's a bunch of amazing history. This exhibit is absolutely fabulous. I wish you could be here yourselves to see it, but I'm glad I can actually bring it to you and bring my voice to it. So here with my mother, actually, by the way, who she may be in some of these shots, and she's enjoying it in her own way, because through me, she's gained an appreciation for this world, and through her friendship with Kathleen Chalfant, who is married to Henry Chalfant, she's gained a different appreciation. So I'm really enjoying seeing this with her and trying to share it with her and enjoying it with her. This wild Espo piece is absolutely amazing. I believe it was actually created for this show. It's showing some history and some here and now and then. But I wanted to show off this moving lights picture. If you've been out to Philly, you've seen some Espo pieces there. He's covered the world with huge pieces, and it's, Wonderful. Not exactly sure what this big Barry McGee piece is all about, but I'm assuming it's where he actually worked out of in San Francisco back in the 90s, and it's sort of like a recreation of a shop that he converted into his own kind of, studio and factory back then. And this is a display of not just his work, but other people's work that he helped out on. On the sides, there's other art, which is definitely not by him. A photograph. I don't know what this death to the Trump regime is all about in terms of modern times, but it's connected. This piece is connected to this piece over here, which is a recreation of a front of Ross and Crack's house back in the 90s from the Canarsie area. And then on the back of this, there are some Ross paintings. So here's a huge Kenny Scharf piece, which looks like it was actually painted and made for this exhibit specifically, painted on these walls and done specifically. You got a cool sculpture that's spinning around, spinning, and this huge Scharf piece that just goes along 3 big walls. It's pretty amazing, pretty awesome. Here we have a bunch of Dash No Polaroids blown up. Dash sadly passed away 2009. I got to meet him, luckily, sometime between 2006 and 2008. Saw a lot of these Polaroids, the originals, at their original sizes. And great loss. He was a great photographer, cool guy, really cool to the scene, and really important to the entire graffiti scene as a whole. One of the really cool parts of Beyond the Streets is its location, being over on Kent Street, right against the water, over in Williamsburg. It's got wide windows, and across the wide windows, you can see a lot of the construction sites. Because of that, a lot of actual real graffiti, modern graffiti, outside. It's a recreation of the old trash record store. I don't even think this is a real store. This is like the concept of a store, of an independent record store. It's not a real one. Their store is actually nearby, like Halcyon, which is actually right around the corner from the Beyond the Street Art exhibit. And this actually has a couple of modern stickers on the windows. Got a Host 18, Butts Up. What's cool is they actually have the door open so you can go inside, like as if you're actually going into an actual current record store. I mean, obviously, you can also really just go downstairs across the street. There's one right across the street, literally. You know what I'm talking about. No? There's a store like this right across the street. It's called Halcyon. It's literally this kind of store. But this is a recreation of more 70s, 80s vibe of these kind of stores. But they still do exist in New York. You can find them in the Lower East Side in Williamsburg. But this recreation is very cool. But it also has a modern aesthetic. If you look at a lot of the stickers, a lot of current sticker artists have come into this room and thrown their stickers up on this window and these walls. I guess security has been told to not either worry about it, or people are just really quick. Doesn't matter. It builds to the aesthetic. It builds to the aesthetic of the entire show, makes the show way cooler to have this really cool bridge of the current and the past. But if you look at a lot of these stickers, these are 2019 stickers, a lot of these. Super modern. You see it's a hologram sticker right here. These skateboards are actually modern. That's a Supreme sticker. That's a Supreme board. That's a very modern board. And a lot of these vinyls are going to be a little bit more modern because some of the albums weren't even on vinyl when they first came out. So it's a huge flower display, bench, and pieces by Daz Mila. They really, really went crazy on this. They decided to take their place and show themselves off. Read all about it yourself. As you can see on the description, Perrier had a part of this, so that's why it's such a major effort and one of the, more let's go crazy pieces of the show. Here we start mixing really the more 90s with the modern, from the people who started in the 90s but kept going with Andre. In this room, a bunch of puppets. These are built by Bast, Paul Insect. Really showing off how some graffiti artists can really expand and be much different and do things that are really special. This is not the kind of work you usually see from these artists. They're mostly wall artists. They do a lot of wheat pastes. But Bast and Insect are both artists that have expanded their work to other levels, and this is just a great example of that. Just a little mini Krylon. They even did, as you can see, an animated video of Michael Jackson dancing. Staticky. Woohoo! They got little plushies. Pineapple Man. They got a mask. This guy kind of looks like Ron English. You got a donut. Some of these actually look like some graffiti artists, if you know your graffiti scene. Some inside jokes here for sure. It's really awesome. One of the cooler parts of this exhibit for sure. This Ico, I believe there's probably some fail involved as well, but possibly not. But what I love about this is that it is an entire booth, and it's like a peep booth. It looks like it is actually just an Ico. No fail, just Ico. But as you can see, there's these curtains, and you go through them, and it really is adults only, as you can see. Very, very, very adults only. You got a vagina, you got a big old penis, you got your boobs, you got your tentacle porn. Check it out, people. Check the tentacle porn. Very, very, very adults only up in here in Ico's adults only room. So these are a bunch of Mark Mothersbaugh pieces. If you don't know Mark Mothersbaugh, it's the lead singer of Devo, who also became one of the best video directors, and he also did the themes for a lot of TV shows. But he's also a great visual artist, and these are just a bunch of little scraps of pieces that he has done throughout his career. Here they've taken the section devoted to Husband Nevin into a also place for children to sit down and draw themselves. So it looks like a really cool little play area, but it has a bunch of Husband Nevin's illustrations. And it looks like Husband also did the art for this little thing here. And they have his book. And then some of the kids, although sorry, this doesn't actually look like kids. Some of this doesn't really look like kids. I don't believe that this Suarez piece was by a kid. That's by Suarez, the 2019 Suarez piece. Or this Bobert. Don't really think that was done by a kid. This doesn't look like a child's piece. But kids, if they want to, could take those drawings and display them to the world if they want. So, trail section. And it turns out that the prayer wheels may have not been stolen. They were actually taken, it seems, off the streets by Fail themselves. Because here they are. Here are the prayer wheels. Always thought that these were stolen, but I guess just not the case. But that makes me happy. Makes me happy to know that they're still out here for the world to experience, instead of being in someone's home stolen. The description explains it all.
Lawsuit on your name because you had tried to do a fraud with the IRS Internal Revenue Service, and we are taking a legal action, and we are issuing an arrest warrant on your name. To get more information regarding this case file, just call us back on our department number 773-536-1343. I will repeat it. 773-536-1343. Thank you.
End of message.
This call requires recording time. Hang up momentarily. Repass or call by first depositing a local rate posted on the instruction card, or dial 0 for the operator.
The show actually continues up to a second floor, and so this is the second floor, and it focuses on other areas, starting off with activism and more modern artists. I'm less familiar with a lot of these artists. This entire wall right here seems to be a poem. But so far, a lot of this section seems to be oh, this is a Jenny Holzer poem, okay. They took Jenny Holzer's 2018 poem and turned it into, and put it on the whole wall. Also, in terms of construction, this is really interesting. A lot of footprints. I don't know if that's meant to be part of the exhibit or what happened, but it's kind of cool. We call this section figurative. This might be more artists that I'm not completely familiar with, although there's a large shepherd fairy in this section, so I'm not exactly sure what they're trying to go. These are Connor Harringtons, so I'm familiar with those actually. I am actually, and they've got more Ahern here. So they're calling this figurative, but it's just more of, you know, the street art world and how it expanded further as time went by. Because here are a bunch of swoon pieces. I am not exactly familiar with Cleon Peterson, but I kind of like his work. And his sculpture is very awesome. Here we have some expertly done Danwitz. Because it is in a gallery setting, the obviousness of the art aspect becomes more, but he did hide one of his brilliant little pigeons in the corner here, which until you come close, you don't really get to see how creepy it truly is. But look, Chaz is coming to get you. Ron English's for your viewing pleasure, and a huge saber. So this is actually, I'm not really big on this figurative line, but it is definitely like of the more modern people who have been doing stuff, who have been kicking ass since the 90s, and are still doing stuff today and are like some of the best around. Come to a section they're calling innovation. And you got the windows going crazy, reflecting. Well, the windows are reflecting off these pieces. There's tape on the ground. Video wall, Space Invader. Katsu is generally a lot crazier than this. I love his handwriting. I love what he's done here, though. He's taken his spot. He's got his, you know. But here's the thing that's special. These are not paintings. These were actually made by a drone, as this thing tells you. So these were all, Katsu actually got a drone and designed it to actually make these smiles for him. So it really is, you know, the modern. So while it seems very simplistic, it's actually very complicated and goes beyond the norm. And here we come onto a big old Shepherd Ferry section. With a big old history of Obey, a large propaganda poster, which also tends to use some of his wife's work in them. Another piece. And then here's a nice large mural collage of photographs of Andres around the world. And the Shepherd Ferry section continues to just a bunch of prints. Most of these are actually like different concepts with histories explaining what was going on and how Andre and the ferry movement built and got larger. Which they're calling Beyond, but it looks like it's actually what it's also showing, you know, how graffiti has reached out to other sections like Japan, especially since it goes starting with a Murakami and Matsukai, big Murakami Matsukai Finger One Snipe One mural. Finger One. But for the ending, we all go back to the beginning with some pieces by Says, but these are paintings showing off the old world. And they have the Perrier bar, a big thank you, and a huge old gift shop with a cat at the end to greet you goodbye. And that is Beyond the Streets.